I've always wanted to do a show with women of different generations, backgrounds, and views. We call it The View.
Hello, boys, girlies, and non-binaries of the interwebs. I am The View History, Sarah Kellison, your host for today. And today we are going to talk about ABC's daytime talk show, The View. That's currently ending its 25th season very shortly here. We're in the last 2 weeks. A lot of crazy shit has been happening, so let's get into it. Today, I really wanted to go into the newswomen of The View for a specific reason. I feel like, sorry, I just want to move this up for a second, just so you can hear me, because I feel like you won't hear me loud and clear. And last night, on Twitter, I did a Power Rangers Unite Spaces, which Spaces is this whole new thing that I was getting used to. It was a whole dilemma, but we made it, we thrived. I really connected with a lot of people that had different perspectives on the situation currently going on with The View. And we were all Power Rangers, except one person, but that's okay. Love an opposing view, love a different perspective, love being gagged a little. So it's all good. And it was really cool just to connect with fans instead of just doing a solo show for once. So it was cool talking to other people and hearing what other people had to say. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everyone's 2 cents. Keep putting it in. Hashtag Power Rangers, hashtag Power Hour. Power Rangers unite. So I really like currently what's going on Twitter is that we're, as Power Rangers who love Lindsey Granger, are uniting to stop evil. Literally. I am fear we're going to go into a dark era of The View, which I'm like, let's not do this to ourselves. So we're going to try to prevent that and make some noise pretty much. If Alyssa Farah's PR people can make some noise, so can we as the stands, The View. And we love to see it because Power Rangers outsold. It's just a fact. If you look at all the information I put online of the ratings between Alyssa and Lindsey outsold. Power Rangers showed up. It's just simple as that. I didn't see anyone cheering for Alyssa in the audience so hard. So, it's just in real time, it translates to Lindsey being the more cheered on person. And that's just facts. That is just simply facts. But I did want to get to know why people like Alyssa, and I'm trying to understand it. As a View stand, I don't understand it really because and I'm really trying to get in that perspective because I'm genuinely want to know. From what I've got from all the people I've talked to that do like her, is that she knows her stuff on politics, which I agree with. She is a well-educated woman, and I can totally see that. And she's passionate about what she likes in terms of talking about politics. I agree with that half of the time, but she needs to stick true to our original point. I hate when she loses her point. And the women clearly can see she's just agreeing with them, just not to get yelled at and just not to start confrontation, because she is not a confrontational person. And speaking of non-confrontational people, the newswomen of The View. Let's open that floor up a little bit. We're going to have this conversation. We're going to have it, whether you guys like it or not. And a lot of people I know stand these people on this list. Maybe not Paula Farah so much, but everyone else is pretty much stand. But we need to objectively speak about this. We need to objectively have this conversation. So the first newswoman of The View was Barbara Walters. Now, she created the show. That's the thing. That's what makes the difference with her standing out versus the others, is that she created the show, and that's just what it is. And she was the one who anchored it. She kept everyone under control. So she had an executive producer position as well. So she kept things in line with her vision, and she was very smart in that way. So I don't really count her as like newswoman of The View necessarily. She is a newswoman though, but she's an iconic legend. Nobody else in this list can really hold a candle to her. And that's just what it is. Nicole Wallace was the second news person to really be on this show. Well, she worked in a White House too, very similar to what we're seeing now with Alyssa. She worked for the George Bush administration and then the McCain campaign afterwards. Her best moments on this show was when she guest moderated the show. When she was a moderator, you could see that she connects with other people that way better than being a regular panelist. And I'm not surprised she got her own show eventually. And it's deserved for her. It's deserved and it fits right for her. When she was on The View as a regular panelist, though, I felt she was just having a hard time finding her footing necessarily. I think she never truthfully found her footing with The View. I don't think it was her at all. And I think she knows that as well. I think as well it was a pop culture. That show, season 18, was mostly pop culture. And I think that made it even harder for her, for someone who didn't know anything about pop culture. Hence, Alyssa Farah doesn't know anything about pop culture, and it shows. And I think she struggled with it, and I see why she was gone after a season. And later on, she admitted to the press that this job wasn't for her. And she was even asked to guest co-host 4 times this past season, I think. It was something like that. And she rejected it. But she came for Whoopi's birthday, but she knows the show is not for her. And I appreciate that self-awareness coming from her, because this is an infotainment show. This has always been infotainment since the very beginning. Even though it's under the news umbrella now, it's an opinion show, infotainment, conflict-driven TV. There are clips from 1997 I could show you of there being conflict-driven TV on this show. That's just the nature of the show. That's how this show has always been, and there's nothing that's going to change that. And when they didn't have people that followed in that infotainment section, they didn't last. They are not long-term co-hosts, and that's just what they're destined to be. And I don't see a point in hiring someone like that again. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't. The next person on this list is Paula Faris. And Paula Faris was brought on because during that time, I believe she was hired by Ben Sherwood. We have mixed feelings on him because he was the person that really tried to change The View into another hour of GMA. GMA after 10 a.m. is illegal, okay? Like, it's just illegal. It's wrong. It's nasty. It just ain't it. It just never seems to work. Unless your names are Strahan, Sarah, and Kiki, then that works in that regard. But any other regard, that just doesn't work. They hired Paula Faris to bring a more news-esque perspective to the show. And she said that in her book, You Called Out, that came out in 2020, she writes that the producers behind the scenes tried to pressure her to act a certain way on the show and to while also not trying to destroy her journalist reputation. Because if she showed her bias as a journalist and as a news person, she wouldn't be considered a credible news and journalist person in the news world anymore. And ABC feared that, so she could never be truly herself on this show. And I see why she said the last time she was on the show, she likes being a guest, but not a guest co-host. And I can see that. And I think it's not a fair position to put someone in who's a journalist to put them on an opinion show. It makes zero sense because they can't show a bias. And that wasn't a fair position to put it on. She lasted the longest out of all these people, 3 years. 3 years. Because I think eventually she decided to show her personality a little bit. Like they try to figure ways to input that in, like by taking her to the comedy club, by going with the horny Christian gag, which by the way is such a relatable gag in my opinion. So I really connected with that. I found that hilarious, and I like that it showed that Catholics can have a sense of humor too, and I really appreciated that about her. The next person on this list I would say had the most is probably the most liked person, I guess, on this list. Maybe we'll see, especially she's unhinged, but Jedediah Bila Monster. She was a news person as well, but she had more personality. I would say she had a clear leaning bias. She was a libertarian, but I wasn't so sure about that. Later on, she became more of an opinion type person. Now she's very unhinged with Bila. That podcast is very entertaining. I have to say it's some of her best work ever. I really think people are onto something with her. I really do, in the worst way possible. But I see why she only lasted a year, because I wasn't really paying attention that year she was there. I really wasn't, because she just kind of blended in with the group, and they said that they fired her because she agreed with the group too much, and she gelled way too much with just agreeing with everything they said. And that's what we're seeing a repeat of with Alyssa Farah. The last person on this list is Abby Huntsman. Now, again, Abby Huntsman has kind of the same fate as Paula Faris, and she said the exact same stories that lined up with Nicole, with Paula's story, where she felt she did not fit into the show. And she felt that she regrets doing a show. Well, she doesn't regret it, I don't think, but she went in with the experience and she realized that this wasn't for her, and she got out of it. And I'm so glad she had the self-awareness to realize she wasn't meant for this show. I think they only hired her because she was Meghan McCain's friend, so Meghan could have backup, but that eventually backfired because her and Meghan had a fallout on the show behind the scenes that you can do your research on that. And it jeopardized their friendship, because the moments that shined best for Abby was when she came back from maternity leave in the fall of the next year, and she just began being more herself, and you could see an energy, and she didn't care what people behind the scenes were pressuring her. And she had the same pressure behind the scenes that Paula and others had on this list. And she was a newswoman as well. She was very newswoman-esque. And I see why people didn't really connect with her, because, again, she didn't really know how to act on an unscripted television show. She had a talent coach, throughout her whole time on the show, pretty much. Like, after a month, they got her a talent coach when she first joined. And I appreciated her. Like, I appreciate everyone on this list for going into something and realizing it wasn't for them, and having the self-awareness to realize that. And I think there's enough evidence here to showcase why Alyssa wouldn't work. I'm going to say this. I watched Alyssa on CNN a few times, and I think she works better in that environment, because in that environment, it's more controlled. It's not as unscripted. You need to interject. You don't need to interject just randomly. They call on you. They're like, Alyssa, what do you think about this? And see, she works in that type of environment really well. She works really well with that. So that works better for her. Where in this show, she seems very uncomfortable being confrontational. She doesn't seem like she wants to do that. She just wants to sit there, agree with the women, and leave it and then just sit back, pretty much. And that's just how it felt like. More and more, it feels like this all the time. Since we're talking about her, I'm sure you guys all heard the news, but if you haven't, there's been a lot of PR in the news realm that Alyssa got the job. She got the job. I am not going to fully go into that. I don't fully believe it yet. There's just a few things. There's a few kinks there that I want to go into. Number one, they said that they are going to announce before the end of the season in all these articles. I will believe it if next week there's no guest co-host. If there's a guest co-host if Lindsey's there next week, then I'm going to think these articles were just fake and this was a PR move to get people, either someone from ABC is doing this and they're trying to get people to realize it's Alyssa, or could be Alyssa's PR team too. They're doing this to create noise around Alyssa to make her look like she's getting it. And maybe to get her people from her PR team to give into pressure to ABC to just hire her, because she probably won't wait any longer. And there's a few things I noticed with her doing that, with like not showing up last month and going to CNN instead and missing, like, she had a full week booked and she only showed up for 2 days. And then also these articles that just keep coming out about her, like, constantly. And I'm like, here's the secret about the news industry. People can tap you to give your input in certain articles and certain stories, but you can also do that yourself, where you could pay certain news sources to put articles out about you. As someone who does music, I've done that before. And that's just the secret about the industry. So that could very well be the case as well. And this is trying to scare people. I know I'm sorry. I just laughed because I kept thinking, this is very evil, but she's trying to just scare people, or trying to get people to be like, listen, I got the job, so stop talking, especially with all the Power Granger craziness that's going on Twitter. But I will say, the one thing about those articles that I was interested in that really made me feel somewhat good is that all the ladies don't think in those articles, the ladies think they don't think she's genuine, and they just think she goes with whatever the way the table leans. She doesn't actually have any genuine agreement with them. She just is just agreeing with them just to not get yelled at and just to blend in. And it also says that Anna doesn't like her at all. And I can totally see that, because Anna ain't even looking at her. Like, when I watched that show last week and Anna was there, Anna, anytime she tried to talk to Anna or engage with Anna, Anna would just look the other way, or would just be like going through her cards, giving us some really good TV. I really like that TV. I see you, Anna. I see you. Navarro Navy. I see you.
I was working in the Department of Defense and in the White House. I'd get home really late, sometimes like 8:39, and my husband can't really cook, but he would just make a we. Yeah, you guys are better wives than me. I would pop my husband if he demanded.
And like, I see why Anna doesn't trust her. Like, everyone wants to talk about January 6th lately, but I want to talk about Revenge of the 5th. Here's the tweet. You were literally calling her pretty much a rhino on January 5th, the day before the insurrection. That is not, see, that's why I see the women, why they don't trust you. And probably Anna has seen this before. So, and there's just so much history here with you that it's just insane. It's absolutely insane. And I see why the women are very cautious of it. And this is why I see through this. I see through this now. I didn't before. But now I completely, after everything we've been learning these past couple of months since the Vanity Fair article, I see the con in Farrakhan. I do. And if her PR people are making some noise, well, here's the thing. View stands can make some noise too. And we can get loud. We can get loud. And it's going to be all over the place, because we brought receipts left and right. Power Grangers are going to power through. And that's just what it is. I find it very sad. Like, I wish it's very concerning to me when people just buy into this. And I am all for giving people second chances, but there is a lot of evidence here that she just flip-flops to whatever whoever the paymaster is. It's so BDSM. Like, that sounded so BDSM when they said paymaster. I'm like, why are we framing it like that? Like, why are we putting in that framework? Like, is she doing some extracurriculars that we do not know about? Because I don't even get into that conversation, but again, this is an infotainment show, and we need the girls to create some, heat at the table, and not in a way where it's like turns into a personal fight. We don't need it to turn into a personal fight, but we want to create some heat and make some excitement. And that's what Lindsey Granger brings to this table. She brings the heat, she brings the excitement, but then it's good afterwards. And also something Alyssa didn't do that in some of these segments, and oh my God, today's show, on Wednesday's show today, they were really trying hard to make Alyssa relatable. And oh my God. That was not it. Like, that was not for my girls. And I really never seen the show try so hard to make someone so damn relatable. Like, she needs to engage with the pop culture topics somehow, or the relationship topics, or the lifestyle topics. Like, she needs to engage with those a lot more and try to make them more relatable to her, relatable to the audience, because again, she's just not table relatable. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into this conversation, but someone brought this up last night, that Black women need to work twice as hard than white women to get to places. And that is so true, though. That is just so true. There is so much systemic racism in the whitewashed media that we don't acknowledge, and we need to check our own privilege, because there has been so many times where a white person won against a person of color that deserved it more. Honestly, in this competition, Lindsey and Tara were the best ones. Lindsey and Tara Setmayer were the best ones. And there should have been a competition between those two instead of Alyssa and Lindsey. I feel Lindsey and Tara would have been a much more interesting competition to see who got this job. And I don't engage. I don't know how Alyssa got this far, but I think the only thing that really I can see is that she has inside connections in the political world, and she's going to use those connections to get certain people on this job. And like, here's the thing. I don't think it's a good idea to use someone to get to certain places for connections. I feel there's other ways they can do it. Like, I feel they could get like a guest co-host that was like a male guest co-host or something, or someone that is a guest on the show, and I feel they could just like be like, can you hit up Cassidy Hutchinson through this? Like, somebody related to that. I don't think they should use a full-time co-host to just get inside connections. I don't need it, and I don't want to see any of it, truthfully. But like, I'm fine with Cassidy Hutchinson and all those connections coming on the show, because in this time we do need to hear these voices, but hiring someone basically just to get inside connections from the previous Trump White House is not a timeless quality, period. And what if it's not Trump for re-election? What if it's DeSantis? What if it's Liz Cheney? And what if Alyssa gets tapped by those people to join their campaign? She will ditch the show. She will ditch us. I don't see her as long-term, period. So we need to wake up and learn from View history here of what works and what doesn't for this show. And here's the thing, as Whoopi said, I know people at Sesame Street, but I do not need to know people in the former Trump White House. There are a million books on that. There's thousands of books. We really couldn't get anyone else to try to bring in that connection, like to these people that are testifying for January 6th. Heck, Stephanie Grisham testified for January 6th. Can't we use her as connection, since I know she is connected with the show in a way? Like, I don't mean hire her full time. I just mean get her as like a guest co-host from time to time, or as a guest, like, like have her inserted into certain topics, like when Jonathan Karl's there. I think that would be a better fit for it. Like, Jonathan Karl gets inserted in when there's special reports and stuff. Put Stephanie Grisham in that, because Stephanie has a hell ton more personality than Alyssa. So big eyes, like that explains everything. Big eye Stephanie Grisham, we love her, so we stan it. But maybe not as full time, but maybe as a partial guest co-host, like Jonathan Karl, ABC News contributor. she could replace Jonathan Karl, truthfully. Like, give her Jonathan Karl's job. See, we see the Kool-Aid parade. We see the Kool-Aid parade with her. And it will be Kool-Aid parade every single day. The double speaking has turned into triple speaking, and that's just what it is. Honestly, the opposing view we're not supposed to agree with necessarily. And they're supposed to be invoking a reaction of some sort from the audience itself. And I think it's good when we have a reaction. And Lindsey maybe doesn't get everything correct, but Alyssa doesn't either. And that's okay. Like, I think it's a good example of if Lindsey doesn't get it correct, and they correct her, then good, correct her. Then show us the example, be the example, and show us what you think it is or what the correct information is. And that's just the reality of the opposing view. And we could have it so much worse. Like, honestly, there's Candace Owens, there's Tommy Lauren. Like, hello, like, have you met the alt-right before? Like, it's so hard to find someone to do this job who truly can do it all, but not be like, so like, like she's pro Black voices, Lindsey, and that's what I like about her. And she's pro LGBTQ. She's all those things. And she does, and you can still be a conservative. You can still hold your conservative and Republican values still. And that's what I really appreciate about her. She doesn't just mindlessly agree with the rest of the women. And Alyssa, I just feel she mindlessly agrees with them. I think Alyssa is a smart woman and she can critique Democrats. It's just she chooses not to on this show. She's not as assertive about it. She doesn't do it in an entertaining way. And she just agrees more and more with the other women every single day. And I just keep seeing that, and it's giving us nothing. And, I know that if you guys still don't understand why I like Lindsey so much, I did a podcast with this really great podcast called The View and Review. And I was a guest for that whole episode, and it was really a fun time. The co-hosts of that show are incredibly nice, and they were incredibly open, and they let me speak my piece, and I really appreciated that about both of them. Claire Spellberg and Joe Reed. They're both very talented. I think I love their show, and I like them because they have a different perspective on this, and they were open on the show itself than what I would have. And I love that. I love that civil discourse, and I appreciate that about them. And I really appreciate them inviting me on to tell them why I'm a Power Granger and why people like Lindsey Granger. And they really wanted to sit back and just listen to what I had to say. And I try to do it in a way where maybe they understand it and and try to get into their shoes a little bit, and that's what I liked about them. And I really appreciate their willingness to listen. And I think you guys should go really check out that podcast that I did with them. And, I'm okay with people, like, if you like Alyssa, that's fine. Like, that's totally fine. I have no issue with that. And I respect your opposing view on that. Like, that is totally welcome. I just feel like, for me, I'm just trying to express here that this is an iceberg, that she's going to struggle with it, truthfully. And I'm looking out for her as well. And I hope you understand that I'm looking out for her best interest as well, and seeing how she would do on this show just based off of View history. Because that's what I do here. It's the View history. And for me, I feel I'm proud of Lindsey Granger for truthfully going into the show, giving an opposing view, doing all the objectives, showing us who she is truthfully, and not being afraid to do that. And I respect that so much. She didn't try to just play on the fence a little bit. She actually went in and gave her true perspective on things and was genuine about it. I could connect with it. I didn't agree with everything she said, but that's okay. I don't need someone to agree with me half the time. In fact, I want someone there who disagrees with me on that show. And I haven't had that since Elizabeth Hasselbeck was there, truthfully. And she was the first one since Elizabeth that I truly felt it was whole. The entire show was whole, and it didn't get personal, and I like that. And I think Lindsey Granger truly deserved this job. I think she truthfully does. And I respect her because she's a self-made woman. For freak's sake, she was a producer for 10 years. That's amazing. Like, that woman has amazing accomplishments. They may be more on a local level, but I respect that. And I think it's cool. And I think she has the potential to have star power and really be the next voice for conservatives in America. And I think we need a conservative that truthfully can do the job of the conservative, and that can but not just do it in a way that polarizes everyone, in a way that can unify people. People from the left really like Lindsey Granger because they like her as a person. They can disagree with her, but they can like her as a person and they can listen. And people don't seem to be as tuned in with Alyssa because December 27th, Fox News, she was questioning election fraud. That was after she quit the Trump administration. There are so many receipts out there. And I wish can we just acknowledge that? Because I feel like I don't want to hire someone who's just going to say one thing here and then on Twitter I see them criticizing Democrats. Like, it just shows how not genuine you are, okay? Like, that's just what it is. And Lindsey doesn't do that. She shows us who we truly are, even if it's in a place that's unpopular for that. I can respect a woman that does that. I can truthfully do that. But when we have a woman that doesn't truthfully believe what she's saying on the show, I don't want to see that. I'm tired of that. No, I'm over that. And we don't need that. And I love The View and all, but that is hard to watch. And I want to connect with co-hosts that I can relate to that show us who they are. So with that being said, thank you. That was my soapbox. Sorry for going on my soapbox, but we just really had to put that out there in the universe. But anyways, Power Granger's power. So I'm doing Power Granger Power Hour every day for the next week and next week until the season's over or until they announce someone, whatever comes first. And we're doing hashtag Power Granger in all our View tweets on Twitter when the show is on. So feel free to do that. I might do East Coast and West Coast for this. So feel free to join in on Twitter. I'm at The View History on everything. And this has been today's show. So I hope you guys all take a little time to enjoy The View History. And let's pray hashtag Power Grangers for our girl, ABC. Come through for me, please. Okay, done.